Now, there's no doubt about it that by far the most incompetent person over at Lucasfilm is no other than Kathleen Kennedy. In fact, I wouldn't maybe even say the word incompetent. I think it's all deliberate. I think that she knows exactly what she's doing over at Lucasfilm. She really wants to really kind of just upset the fandom, dismantle George Lucas's Star Wars, and what we're talking about right now has a lot to do with what's going on with Lucasfilm and an entire Lucasfilm team of creators that Kathleen Kennedy let go and laid off, and exactly why this all happened behind closed doors. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are doing their thing with Ahsoka and Mando Season 4, which, by the way, there's been a lot of rumblings now that Mando Season 4 may be transferred over into becoming an actual movie itself. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But on top of the list here, we have a lot of things happening with Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, Jon Watts, who, by the way, are working on both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. And yeah, I mean, it's really a big division, not just with the fans, but also with a lot of people associated with Lucasfilm over there, and everything that's happening between Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas's Star Wars. So let's get into exactly what's going on here, because this only makes things worse for Bob Iger's image and for how everybody views Disney Star Wars in general, only getting worse and worse. So, we know one major thing about Kathleen Kennedy is that she has always been dedicated to stripping away what Star Wars truly stands for, and with Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye focused on dismantling George Lucas's philosophy with the upcoming Acolyte, one major development surrounding Kathleen Kennedy is that she recently fired an entire Lucasfilm team of creators for both the Acolyte series and Skeleton Crew, surprisingly. This ranged from various employees, a part of multiple departments, working on these two projects that are dedicated to rebuilding Star Wars from the ground up. The main reasoning behind these firings is the longer hours that the Lucasfilm creators were arguing about to those like Kennedy, Jon Watts, and Leslye for a while, as both shows are in post-production and have been for a while as well. However, in addition to this, there were many of those that were not agreeing with Kennedy's approach to these two shows dismantling George Lucas's Star Wars, and were challenging the direction and style of both iterations and installments that created a creator division between Kennedy's loyalists and those eventually disagreeing with the massive shift and change-up for the Star Wars material that they actually did not want connected to their careers, essentially. Now, let me just pause here for a second. Now, the problem with this is that this goes on to show you that it's not just the fans that are divided. You also have many Lucasfilm employees, which the last time that we checked has well over 2,000 plus employees to this day. And that just goes to show you that there's a lot of people that do not like Kathleen Kennedy's vision of Star Wars, and how a lot of people associated with Lucasfilm actually love the franchise. You know, they grew up with it, you know, they really strive for it to succeed, and we have people over there that are either Kennedy loyalists or George Lucas loyalists. And that's just a given fact, and that's why there is an ongoing, division over at that company and why it's so unstable. This is why you have a lot of creative differences all the time between people that are hired by Kennedy and leaving or getting fired because of her. It has been happening for several years now, basically, right? Ever since the dawn of time when Disney bought out Lucasfilm back in 2012. So, the thing about this, too, that I find very upsetting is the fact that she really just goes on to have no remorse about letting go of people's jobs if they don't agree with her vision of Star Wars, and shifting away from true George Lucas's Star Wars and his philosophy and what it really truly stands for. And it just goes to show you her true colors. There's no doubt about this. People like Leslye Headland do not deserve to be hired by Lucasfilm. Period. The end. I mean, this is somebody that went on the record of saying that if you're expecting George Lucas to be the key of Star Wars, that you're a misogynist. That's the misogyny, she says. That's a problem. You know, that's a real big problem. The fact that we have people like that hired over at this company representing Lucasfilm and Star Wars, mind you, in general, is a very big flaw. Now, heading into the next thing here. These ongoing challenges from the employees to Kennedy, Leslie, and John Watts and their vision led Kennedy to firing this long list of Lucasfilm employees/creators that she is now getting Lucasfilm to hire new crews for last-minute post-production work that will stretch all the way into early 2024, at least for the Acolyte, with a brief pause now initiated for post-production. This may or may not delay both projects. Kennedy is also transferring some team members that worked on Mandalorian Season 3 to fill in some spots to work on post-production just to aid and keep the process afloat as new ones are eventually hired in the next couple of weeks. Kennedy is also breaking many promises she made with George Lucas over a year ago, also regarding the Acolyte series. Many of the sequences that Lucas and Kennedy agreed on will be getting cut, which involved some significant cameos for the script that Lucas requested for Kennedy to pursue last year that are now getting cancelled out altogether. So here's another problem here, guys, is the fact that you have a lot of promises that were made by Kathleen Kennedy to George Lucas that he specifically requested to happen in The Acolyte that are now meeting its demise. This ranged from story elements and pieces to even full-blown big-time cameos appearing in The Acolyte. We talked about how Yoda was supposed to be a very big influence on this story that is no longer a thing. And that was stripped away from the script long ago. That's just one little example there. So that's why I'm not really looking forward to this show. I have no hope for this series. And it's why, you know, I think that a lot of fans out there will agree with me on this, that they really just don't feel any form of excitement for this show because of what Leslie Headland said. That this series is really kind of writing something on a blank canvas, basically the same exact thing that Rian Johnson said when he was developing his new trilogy. It's writing something on a blank canvas. It's not going to acknowledge George Lucas's Star Wars at the very core. It's going to be something new, something for new fans, something new to see, and I think that's really going to create a lot of division further within the fandom, if not ending it altogether. I've said this many times, and I know, and I'm very well aware about that, but I think that this show holds the potential of becoming a bigger backlash by fans than that of The Last Jedi. There's no doubt about this. We already know that Leslie is rewriting history. She is dismantling and destroying the core values of Star Wars in this show. And basically, it is going to literally restructure the franchise. From the very core of the actual show, it's going to show, and it's going to show easily, that Leslie Headland does not care. She does not listen to people like the fans out there that love George Lucas's prequels and originals. And yeah, that's that. So anyway, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. And I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.